Welcome to episode 8. You'll be happy to know that this episode features my mother. To say it's been a rough year is putting it nicely. But when I think about how this has affected my family, in particular my mom, I get emotional. We never want to see our loved ones experience pain, and I made her experience that over and over again. There are a lot of lessons in this story, but that's a big one. Think of your family. You only get one. I remember having a conversation with my mom one day, pre-podcast. We were reflecting on mental health awareness and the stigma attached to it. The truth is, we don't shun people who share their experiences with physical health issues. Imagine saying to a cancer patient on chemo or a veteran who lost a limb, "Why do you have to share those details?" Or telling them, "Just move on." We don't. Most people can't even imagine that conversation. But a woman sharing her raw, unfiltered relationship vulnerabilities, that's taboo. I'm here to try and break that stigma. In episode 8, you'll join me and my wonderful husband while we visit Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and ultimately Huntsville, Alabama, where we stay for a while. Well, I stayed for a while. Dick starts his farewell from FinDom Tour and leaves his precious computer unlocked. I'm Amanda Arnier, and this is the Dichotomy Diaries. Let's dive in. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. Today, we have my mom interviewing me. Say hello, Mom.
Hello, everyone.
Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Hello, listeners. This is Tina. I'm Amanda's mom. I'm a nurse. Worked mostly in the emergency department for the majority of my career. There's nothing that I have not seen or I have not heard. So while this story is shocking, it's not really that shocking to me.
Also, you've gone through some similar kinds of things in your life.
Sure have.
Which I think gives you a lot of insight to, I'm not just your daughter, but I think that we have quite similar thought process and way of handling things. Mm-hmm. So I think it helped and maybe it hindered the relationship because maybe you would have made the same choices or did make the same choices at some point.
It was significantly impactful watching you go through this. My point of view is very different and unique. I watched you be tormented by everything that you were going on, but internally I was tormented and saddened and horribly triggered.
Yeah,
because I feel like I handed you the blueprints on how to become the perfect victim to an abusive kind of partner, a predator, if you will. You were around. It was when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
I made some really rotten, shitty decisions. I brought a man into our lives. You, me, your brother, even, your dad.
Yeah.
He was kind of a liar. He was a cheater. He snorted lots of money up his nose. In the end, like you, I was tens of $1,000s in debt, $90,000 actually. That relationship ended up really catastrophically. One of us ended up going to jail, and the other one ended up in the ER and eventually in surgery. That story's for another episode. So my point of view is as a mom, but as a person who's also really walked down this same road. I get a lot of questions about, why is Amanda telling this story? Why does she have to reveal so much? My God, it's so private. I tell them, you know what? She's informing people. She's educating people. You know, it helps to tell the story, to move through the trauma. It helps reduce the sting little at a time. Telling the story, getting feedback from listeners, getting feedback from the people who she's interviewing helps give validation. It helps give validation to Amanda, obviously, who's the most important one right now, but also to any other woman who's experienced this. It gives them strength that they're going to come out on the other side. They're going to be able to love, and they're going to be able to be loved. So when I get that question about why does she have to do it, this is part of her healing. It's part of her mission to help other people as well.
But you weren't too happy about me doing this in the beginning. Is that right?
It's not that I wasn't happy about you doing it. I was concerned that it would be a diversion, that doing the podcast would be a diversion for you, and you wouldn't do the personal work that you needed to do. As far as emotionally, you know, you've said it yourself in previous episodes. I just wanted to be loved. And I think sitting down with your therapist and going through the root of what was going on in your head when this was all unfolding, you know, what was it in you that, you know, that helped this continue, I guess I would say. I mean, I'm not trying to put anything on you, but there's something in each of us that allows us to continue to pick shitty partners. And whether it's poor self-esteem, whether it's we don't feel loved, whether it's mommy issues, you know, body image, I don't know what it is, but there's so many different things. And that was my concern, is that you weren't going to do the work on yourself because you were going to be so enthralled in the process, because that's what you love, is the process.
That's true.
Of the podcast, that you weren't going to be working on fixing you. Who cares about everybody else? You're the one that I care about.
I think that what I have gathered and what I have worked on in therapy and even not at therapy, but just on my own, in my own time, like one of the things I have been saying recently is like, I forced myself to sit in it. And when before I was very good at just kind of like repressing all of the stuff that I was going through, whether that was relationship, divorce, parent shit, like just stuff at school, I would always just be like, I'm good, I'm strong, I'm just going to move forward. And what I realized is that when everything came to a peak, I don't know, I think that it was in June of this year, all of that bad shit came back all at once while I was going through the worst time of my life with this whole dick situation. And so, yeah, that was kind of just like an aha moment for me, where I was like, okay, I have to dive in from the very beginning. And the very beginning stuff is like childhood stuff, right? And working through that. And I've been able to do that, like you're saying, like talking about it on the podcast, sitting in my room alone, sometimes just crying, you know, like you just have to do it. But there was a lot of people, you know, even my therapist was like, I don't know if you should do it, but I really had this gut feeling like this is the thing that was gonna be different from all of the other trauma that I had experienced. I had to do things differently this time. And I'm happy that I did, because I feel actually really good now. So,
well, I can certainly see a difference in you. Your outlook is much different than it was a few months ago. I think the engagement that you are experiencing with listeners and getting feedback is really huge. Just your attitude just seems to be much more healthy, you know. Not that I want you to be like, fuck him, he's an asshole, but fuck him, he's an asshole. I couldn't wait until I heard you say that. I couldn't wait until the angry breakup songs came on the radio, when Taylor Swift would come on, I'd be like, yes, yes.
I did have that on repeat for a little while this summer.
You're in your right mindset. You know, you need to get to that angry, I'm not looking back, I'm not going to happen again mindset. So
yeah,
it's good to have seen that.
Yeah. And I don't know if I've said this actually on the podcast, because I say it to my girlfriends I know all the time, or when people ask me, oh, how did you find out about all of the girls, and just kind of how did this all come about? I knew that if I reached out to the women that I knew about that Dick had been in relationships with prior, that he would never speak to me again, because he had told me that. And so that was like my initial insurance policy against myself, because all of the times that he had disappeared and done horrible things to me, I would go back very easily the moment that he showed any sign of I still love you, or I'm not sure, there's something, I'm sad, Yeah. And so I was really scared. People would keep asking me if he comes back, are you going to go back? And I didn't know what to say, because I wanted to say no, but in my mind I was
I wanted you to say no.
But I felt that I was well, maybe though, I remember thinking in my head, saying no, but thinking in my head, well, maybe if he went to rehab, or if he, did GA or something like that, then maybe. And I remember thinking that for way too long, and that never happened. And so then I'm okay, I have to stop thinking this. How, Amanda, will he never, ever trust you ever again? Because once he doesn't trust you, he won't speak with you. And I'm I just have to reach out to the people. And that's why I did that. And then that just unfolded crazy timeline on the wall. So
was that you not believing in any other avenue that you'd be able to stay away and not give him another chance?
Yeah, no, I didn't trust myself at all.
Okay.
At all. You guys, at the point in June where things really got crazy, you hated him, your husband hated him, Dad fucking hated him, Michelle hated him, everybody hated him.
But you didn't.
But I didn't. And I remember thinking, okay, so the only possible way that I could be together with him if he did come back would be that I would have to give up my family, or let my family down. And when I started thinking about what that would look like to me, I was no, we're gonna call the ex-wife and the ex-fiance and the ex-girlfriend, because that was not something that I wanted at all. So yeah,
I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you reached out to them. I would not have had that self-control in a relationship if he said, absolutely, you don't talk to those people or I'll never trust you again. I really would have needed to reach out to them to see what it is. I probably would have believed all of the bullshit, because that's what you want to. It's all rainbows and unicorns in the beginning. So
yeah,
I get it.
Pun intended, rainbows. Okay, so let's recap episode 7. So episode 7, actually, we left off and we were at Lost Lands, the dubstep dinosaur music festival in Columbus. We had a crazy first night, and then the next 2 nights were just kind of music festival nights. And so we were there. It was me, Dick, and you guys, finally, Italian ice skater bestie has a name. His name is Dante. So it's me, Dick, Dante, and then Dante's friend. And we're all really used to listening to this lovey-dovey Millennium lyric kind of music. But dubstep's not like that. Millennium was there, but dubstep music is just bass, headbanging. And for 2 days straight, it's a lot. So it wasn't really Dick's favorite. He complained basically the whole time, which is what he does if it's something that I like, which is funny.
Like a baby.
Like a baby, yeah. But I had a good time because I, just as much as I like to dance and twirl around in La La Land and sing love songs when I rave, I also really like to headbang like I'm listening to Korn. So that's maybe something people don't know about me. It's a good stress reliever. So we ended up coming back to your house, so my mom's house here, and I don't know if we stayed maybe like one night or 2 nights, but our next destination on kind of this road trip was going to be Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I don't think you guys can. I don't think you stayed. And if you did, it was just for one night, pack your stuff and get up and go. Because I don't remember anything significant.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it was just one day, because I think the whole reason that it was so fast was because on the way back he's like, we just got to leave your mom's house or something like that, because he acted like he liked being here a lot, but it's not Las Vegas, so there's always some sort of complaint. I had picked out Lake Geneva because it's one of my favorite places ever. In Wisconsin, yeah. And it was fall during this time, and it's just so beautiful up there. The lake is serene. It almost reminds me of just kind of East Coast boat life, and I really like that. The restaurants are cute, and also one of my really good friends, Ashley, and her husband lived up there, so I was excited to be able to see her frequently because the home that we had rented through Airbnb was 12 minutes away from her and her husband's house.
Nice.
2, they had never met Dick. And
they weren't at the wedding.
No, they weren't at the wedding. They were invited, but they couldn't come. And so I was excited to I didn't ever really get an opportunity to hang out with my husband and another couple ever. If I did, the other couple was super toxic, or my friends.
Or they were losers, like your friends.
Yeah, they were just big losers, as he would say. But I was excited for them to meet. So we get this house. It's cute. It's this little cottage. There's wild turkeys walking around everywhere. The dogs were going crazy. It was the decor inside was mid-century modern. And I think it had it had 2 bedrooms, and it also had this attic loft thing. Up there was, smaller beds because it was for families, whatever. But he basically made the upstairs his office. So, we unpack our stuff. We're planning to stay there. I think it was 2 weeks exactly. And we're just kind of we get groceries and we're just enjoying the time. The windows are open. It's green. It's so nice. The lake's right down the street. And he's upstairs in the office, and he's, camming just like he normally does on his Mac. But he would stay up there all day long. And it was super annoying to me because while he was up there, I was downstairs and I was working on Osler Academy, the consulting company.
The consulting, okay.
Yeah, so I was going to be doing adult content consulting, which I had told you about. And I'm working on all of that. I'm actually getting meetings set up with potential clients. And I think that I had scheduled 3 meetings within the first 2 days or something that we had been in Wisconsin. But I would take a break and I would go outside with the dogs and lay in the grass, because I was this is why we're here. We're here so we can spend time in nature. And I really thought that doing something like that would be beneficial for me, for him, because, he was quote unquote depressed, but he still just wants to sit in front of that screen all fucking day. So he was planning this East Coast tour is what he called it.
I think I remember hearing about this. You told me.
Yeah.
Business trip.
Yeah, quote unquote business trip. And so he started kind of hinting that he would be on the East, that we were doing a road trip, and that he would be on the East Coast within the next 2 weeks. And so if you wanted an opportunity to meet Bret Michaels in the flesh, this was your last opportunity, because at this point, right, I think he had said that by like 30, he wanted to be completely done with all of the adult content stuff.
And a millionaire.
And a millionaire. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have $1 million in the bank by the time you're 30.
Or you're a loser.
Or you're a loser, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
who's the loser?
Did he say that his dad said that, or did he say that was like a him thing?
I think that was a him thing, but the thing with his dad that I remember is that when he was like, a teenager, his dad showed him a check that he had made, like a residual or some kind of check for $75,000. And I think it was the first time that I had met him. And Dick was like, I want to make money like that. He was so influenced by money, making money, and he's going to be the Wolf of Wall Street guy. That's his idol. You have to have $1 million in the bank by the time you're 30. Yeah, I remember that. And so the money thing was just huge.
Was there anything else? Because we haven't really talked about basically your perception of Dick up until this point. So we'll pause episode 8, just that narrative for a second. What did you think of Dick when you first met him?
I remember in one of the episodes you said, yeah, my family really liked him. It went really well. And he was pleasant and he was polite, but he was very full of himself and arrogant. And
give an example.
All he did was really talk about himself and his clothing and name brand dropping. Talked about a lot of his long-term goals and aspirations, to be a millionaire, and he's going to own all of these really high-end pieces of property. The Wolf of Wall Street. He talked about how he had gone to a seminar for what's that guy's name?
Jordan Belfort, yeah.
Jordan Belfort, yeah, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Hilarious.
He reminded me a lot of the man that I referenced, that I brought into our lives when I was in my 30s, Frank Abagnale from Catch Me If You Can, the liar. Frank. He reminded me, I had a list of red flags that I ignored after.
Which also is Leonardo DiCaprio, isn't it?
It is Leo, which is very strange. I thought about
all of Dick's favorite movies actually are Leo movies, which I never really made that connection until now.
Well, you like the Titanic too, so that's kind of spin on that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so lots of the red flags that I had from Frank were like being checked off the list for Dick. Just full of himself, had all these outlandish stories of things that he had done. He seemed to have lived more years in experience than he lived in actual years, which just seemed inauthentic.
I say that though. I mean, and this is not me defending him, but I always say that I feel like I'm an old soul because I feel like if there is a baseline 33-year-old what experiences that people go through, I feel like I've probably gone through like 2 lifetimes worth of experiences, whether that be positive or negative. So
his just seemed just very imaginative and made up. The first communication that I had with him, you referenced, was a phone call. It was a FaceTime or something. And I don't know, we were talking about exercise and being healthy. And I'm like, yeah, you should need a program or something. And he's like, well, you just need to get the fuck up. You're like 50, right? So just get up off your ass.
And just fucking do it.
I'm like,
yeah.
So I'm kind of sitting there at a loss for words, which does not happen often. And I'm not exactly sure what my verbal response was, but my face was probably like, are you kidding me? Wow, okay. So the phone call ends, and at first I'm like, who the fuck does this fucking guy think he is? I don't even know him. I haven't even met him in person. He's all fucking cute and his white teeth and all that stuff. And I'm like, who does he think he is? I didn't hire him as a personal trainer to be like, sir, yes, drop and give me 20. I didn't hire him to talk to me like that. So
and also, this is the first interaction you had. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, Mom, I met this wonderful Mormon guy.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was probably
right.
Also
Yeah,
why it's very shocking.
It wasn't an expected first exchange. And then, and I don't know what this was, but I was like, first I was upset, and I'm like, who does he think he is? I am her mother. Damn it. And then my brain turned to, that guy's kind of got a lot of balls. Huh. I guess I gotta give him props for just being who he is. Like, it's probably not the first impression that I would want to give, but he's putting it out here. I am who I am. This is what I think. You want to do it? Fine. I can give you some hints. If you don't want to do it, then fucking move on. You know?
Yeah, he did that a lot. Like, there was a lot of times where, I mean, he always used to say, like, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. Mm-hmm. Which I think that he believed that about himself, but he also is just delusional in the sense that he actually lives for what people think.
Right.
But his narrative, what he tells himself, is that he doesn't. So it actually gives him this green light to talk the way that he talks, to say the things that he says, to use words that he uses that maybe aren't so PC, but he doesn't give a shit at all.
Yeah,
like, you know. So,
well, shock value is a big thing for him. I don't remember, it was Christmas when Dick first met John, my husband. Mm-hmm. He said something, they were talking like about meeting different people, and Dick was like, you know what? If I meet someone and they don't have anything to offer to me to help raise me up, I don't have any use for them. I'm out.
I don't remember that.
And it was like so off-putting. It's like, wow, if I'm not of your caliber, I'm not worthy of your presence.
Yeah, but that's not even it. He was literally saying, like, if you have nothing to give me, right. Which is, or I don't have any, if you don't have anything I can take from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking back and dissecting all of the crazy things that he said is actually really funny now. But
yeah. Well, do you remember what he said about hitting women?
So I was trying to think about this when you mentioned it earlier. I remember the conversation. So I remember I was literally like walking down the stairs when he said it, and I was like, "You didn't just fucking say that." But I don't remember how it came up.
I think you guys were here at the house. I think it was Christmas, because there were lots of people. Granny was in the kitchen, and I believe I like tapped him on the shoulder, like, "Hey, just give him a little tap on his muscles, because he's a big muscle head." He said something about, "Hey, don't hit me, because if people hit me, I hit them back." And I'm like, "Yeah, but not like a girl." And he's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "So wait, let me tell you, if my daughter gave you a little pop in the bicep," he goes, "Yep, absolutely. I'd hit her back. I would not hold back." And my mom, your granny, is like standing there with her mouth open, and she's like, "No." And I looked at him like, you're full of shit. Oh, just shut up. And then nothing else happened. Like, it didn't come up again. But I thought, what a dumb thing to say to the mother of the girl you said you're going to marry. First time I meet him, "I'm going to marry your daughter. I'm going to marry your daughter." Are you going to say that to me? You're going to say that to your granny?
Was that the first time that he was meeting Granny?
I think it was.
Yeah, maybe.
Great first impressions.
Well, I do remember that she was actually like super quiet. Maybe that's why she was kind of quiet, because I had really kind of spelled Granny out as like, yes, I'm the favorite and we love each other and she's so much fun and whatever. And then I remember when we went home from one of the trips, the first trip that he met her, which was maybe this one, that he was like, well, it's not, she doesn't really talk that much. And so maybe that was why. Maybe because she was like, fuck this guy.
Well,
I don't know.
It's kind of an off-putting thing to say about your granddaughter and about your daughter. Like, really? Okay, you could snap her in half, you behemoth.
I always get this. I remember before him and I actually got very serious, that, you know, I had found all of that stuff on the internet, right? Well, my friends had, and then I looked it up and I found like
me too
10 bajillion things more.
Yeah.
But I remember that there was one comment that to this day has like stuck with me, and I think that it said something along the lines of like, he has no social awareness. And this was a comment that was written by somebody that had admittedly spent a lot of time with him. A guy, probably a client, I don't know, but that was something I was like, social awareness. I'm like, he seems pretty aware, but he's not, because I think that there's so many instances in this story, this one for example, where it's like, you don't know that you're not supposed to say that right now. Right. Or you don't know.
Probably shouldn't say it ever, but certainly not the first time that you meet.
Yeah, I know. It's like so, I don't know. It's just so strange, because I really did I truly thought that he was like a smart person, and
he has the ability to mimic smart people. He has the ability to mimic what a person should react like, which if you look it up, as far as the pathology of people who act narcissistic, if they don't experience those emotions, they learn. It's a learned behavior from television, from seeing other people cry, from seeing other people be remorseful. So I don't doubt that he has the ability to mimic being intelligent and using big words and learning big words. Like, don't get me wrong, I know that he has a really decent vocabulary. I'm not sure about how intelligent he is, but yeah, he knows some big words.
He's really good at stats. Now, okay, so now that we have you live on the mic, I guess I was just thinking about things that have come up in the past episodes. So after this occurrence, right, the next thing that, or maybe it was even the same visit, you bought Christmas presents for us to give to family. Remember, we were tight on money, and you were like, how did that whole scenario happen? Like, how did that come about?
I remember, and I don't know if it was a phone call between you, myself, and Dick, or if it was just me and Dick, or if it was a text message exchange. I remember at one point before you guys were supposed to come home for Christmas, he said, I don't know that we're going to be able to come home. I don't think we can afford it. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you can't afford it? And he's like, we're not going to have any money for presents and this and that. And I'm like, well, I'll get presents and I'll just put you and Amanda's name on them. So if that's what it's going to take so that you guys can come home, because I know you wanted to come home. I mean, and obviously I wanted to see you. Yeah, you're happy you're with him. I want to see both of you. And I was trying to be like a mom. You had given me so much history, and he had given me history as far as how his family, he wasn't close with his family, and things were kind of estranged. And I really wanted you guys to have that time for him to be like, oh wow, this is really cool. This is what a tight Italian family looks like. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like, I mean, even down to like the fact that we've never done like matching pajamas. Like, we're not that we're wearing big t-shirts and underwear, but you even got that. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, because now looking back, he didn't get me Christmas presents of his own that year at all.
No.
Like, at all. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, wow, okay.
So you know those presents I picked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like them?
Yeah, I liked them.
Okay,
good. The next, I guess, major thing that is along the same lines is the wedding ring.
Yeah. So he didn't ask about it, and I wasn't trying to be like, so it's been suggested to me and to Amanda that we have a enmeshed type of relationship. I don't know where I end and she begins, and she doesn't know where I end and she begins, or whatever. So the lines are blurred. Maybe there's a little codependency. So I probably crossed the line with this, but I offered the diamond from the ring that your dad gave me, and said, we could probably have this made into a ring, something really simple when you guys are, ready. Would you want that? Like, I don't know what he had planned for you. I didn't know what kind of ring you were looking for. So yes, I did offer that.
It's wild that he didn't say back like, well, this is what she's asking for. This is what she had shown me 9,000 pictures of
what type
of ring. Yeah. Because truthfully, I was asking for like a $300, like, it was fake. I mean, it was gold, but it was fake. Yeah. Like, because I didn't want him to spend any money on it.
Right. And my thought was, this isn't going to be a lot of money, because I figured it'd be a couple $100. I mean, it was more than a couple $100, but
But he also didn't pay you any money for it.
No, but I did say, I'm like, I figured it was going to be like $300. And so I told people that it was like $300, but it wasn't. Oh my God. It's more than that.
See, you're making excuses for him too.
I know. You learn from the best. Yeah, so that's the ring story.
Okay, and then the last thing I think is, because people have asked this actually, like what? How did you not know that he was leaving the house when he left right before the wedding?
Oh, when I was in Arizona.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I was sitting on the couch because I was working. I brought my work computer with, so I was looking down. So I was on the couch, and the door was over to the left, and he was going in and out, and I do remember being like, what the fuck? What is he doing? Why does he keep going in and out? And I did say something like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just taking stuff to the dumpster. And so that was what I knew. And then when you flew out of the house, because I have learned what you look like when he leaves.
And what is that exactly?
Fucking panic. There's no talking to you. You run out in whatever clothes you're wearing. You have no shoes on. You have no socks on. You're in your pajamas. You go into a Verizon store in your fucking nightgown. And I'm like, oh my God. So when you flew out of the house to chase him that time, I knew what was going on. So I walked up to your bedroom. I walked up to his closet. I opened it up. The clothes were gone. I looked for his watches, and I'm like, that motherfucker. And then
did your stomach drop when you saw the empty closet?
It did. I was sick. I was sick for you. And then I was also sick, like, do I need to call people and tell them not to come? Because it's like in 2 days. I was on the phone with like my person being, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do. And, she gave me advice, and I didn't do anything because I just needed to see. And, then I didn't hear from you guys. And then you end up coming back. And I know you said this, but I did. I was like, are you sure that getting married is what you guys should do? And I said, I gestured, because all of his shit was piled up in the kitchen in front of the pantry. I'm like, because this, and I pointed my hands towards this is the reason that I don't know if this is really a good idea. And it made me scared. It made me nervous, but I also know that you had really said, I know there's a good person in there. No one has ever believed in him. His running is his reaction to anxiety and to stress and to, things that he's not sure how to handle. You and me, we might need to clean things or organize, or we might, Yeah, we used to throw things, but we don't throw things anymore. We're better. And he just runs. So while it's really fucked up and it really messes with your psyche, you still believed in him. So
yeah, and I think that's also a good point, is that because I believed in him and you and my whole family believed in me, then you guys were kind of forced to believe in him.
I wanted to believe because, when you started to talk about him in the beginning and you started to talk about, yeah, well, he's had some things and, everybody Googles everybody. You taught me how to find everything, and I did. And it was, oh gosh, yeah, I don't need to see that. Yep, she's right. There it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so awkward, but everybody has a past, and you cannot be judged. Bad decisions happen a lot of times in your 30s. That's what happens. And we can't be judged by our prior indiscretions. And so I try to, look at him that way and say, if his mom and dad aren't willing to give him another chance, we can do that. I can do that. I mean, I don't know what John or your dad or, Michelle were thinking, but I wanted to try to do that. So if you were willing to look past it, then I was going to support you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I just took all of the things that I knew about him in real life and then combined them with the stuff that I had seen or he had told me about in his past, and I really kind of created this imaginary, right, like just hurt person that just always came out on the short end all the time, and no one ever believed in him, and no one ever gave him second chances, and that he was just looking for a break, and
hurt people.
That's a Griffin song, actually. That used to be mine and Dick's, one of our favorite songs that we would jam out to in the car, which is funny.
Interesting.
So interesting. But yeah, so those are really the, I guess, 4 kind of things that I feel like people had questions on, or where I had referenced you in the past. So we can get back to where we were in Lake Geneva. So he's camming upstairs. Door to like the stairs to go up was shut. It was always just like so very private. And it wasn't like he was on calls, like one-on-ones or anything. He was really just on webcamming sites, so it didn't matter if the dogs barked or there was noise like this or whatever. Yeah. He just wanted that privacy, and I always felt like that was so weird whenever he would isolate in the room, because I could literally get on the computer and log in and see him like up close and personal if I wanted to. It was like, why do you have to like close me out? So he was talking about this East Coast tour. If you want to see Bret Michaels for the last time before he's 30, like really doing this whole like farewell like share tour, it's so dumb. But he started to put it on his social media, and so people were like, oh, are you coming to New Jersey? Are you going to be in Virginia? DC, apparently he's got a lot of clients. I know about all you guys. I do. And so he started,
but you can't hide.
Yeah, he started just booking up meets. And so now everyone's probably thinking like, but I thought you said he wasn't allowed to do like in-person stuff. And so for me, I was like, well, what did these entail? And he's like, well, they're really just going to be like cash handoffs and meals. So we're like in the FinDom scene, there's this thing that's called like an ATM meet, which literally it's the most like the person who is the sub, you meet at the ATM, they take out money. Some of them will like get down on their knees and lift the money above their head and give it to their dom or alpha, and then the alpha just walks away. No words.
Love that.
I mean, the psychology is incredible. It's insane. I actually saw one online which was like a female dom, and she like put a dog collar and like walked the guy like into the bank. which I thought was awesome. But yeah, so this is what he was explaining it to me as. And also, like, I would say things like, okay, no, not at anybody's house. That makes me uncomfortable. Like,
so let me just clarify. He had agreed to not do in-person meetups. And you had said, no, hard stop, not going to happen. But now we're on this, we being you and Dick are kind of trying to find where you're going to live. Mm-hmm. And so you guys kind of both changed the rules a little bit because of your situation.
Yeah. And truthfully, the reason that, and I know this is going to sound stupid, the reason that I didn't want him to do in-person meets, I was scared of these people. I thought that he could potentially get hurt or like killed, or like, who are these people that are requesting all of these crazy things? You're going to be with them in person. I really was not thinking that in any part of my brain that he would go there and have sex with them. Never.
You were worried that they were going to overpower him?
Not overpower, but like a gun. Like, I would say that all the time. Like, okay, so you're an escort and you meet somebody in a hotel room and that person gets the hotel room, they've been there already, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of, like, crime shows. Like,
I know, but who's usually the victim?
Yeah,
not the
women.
Big, burly Adonis-looking person.
Don't even say it's fake Adonis. It's juice Adonis. It's Adonis juice.
Yeah.
There's a good energy drink name.
Write that down.
Yeah.
Write that down.
That is what I believed, and the reason that I believed it was not only because this was my husband, mm-hmm. but because the way that he would talk about his clients and about gay men in general, and like they were disgusting to him. They were like the lowest on the totem pole. He did a interview on a podcast one time called like the Hierarchy Podcast. Mm-hmm. I got to talk to that guy to see if I can get that clip, because they actually took it down because of how bad of a person he is.
Oh, wow.
And it really talks about the hierarchy being that, like, the straight white alpha male is at the top, right? Okay. And then at the bottom are, like, the gays. But they don't call them gays. They use derogatory names. And that there are people that they say, I know I'm down here and you're up here. And so, like, he always talked like that about his clients. He didn't talk like that about, like, my uncles, mm-hmm. but, like, he talked like that about his clients. And so I thought, truthfully, that he was repulsed. He even talked about, like, his best friend, Matt, like that, behind his back to me. So he's just
compartmentalizing to get through the money part of it. That's...
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but the reason that I bring that up is because I think that I allowed that boundary to be crossed because mm-hmm. I just didn't believe that he would sleep with a man. I didn't. In the present day, I know that. Right. You know, we know what we know about the past, but yeah. Okay. So that's why the East Coast tour was approved and stamped with my semi-approval, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but
reluctant. But
yeah, there was quite a few individuals that were like, okay, New York City, check, we're going to be going there. New Jersey, check. DC, Virginia, Connecticut, and then he would make his way up to Boston, where his Dr. Sean was. He would meet up with him and get his Botox and his vampire facials and all of that stuff for free. Ew. So, like I said before, I had set up 3 meetings with 3 women who were interested in doing adult content. They either, I want to say that 2 of them had an OnlyFans already set up. Mm. One of them I found on like a Facebook page, like for information, and she was like, I'm thinking about doing it, but I'm really, reluctant. So we really just talked about how I would set up, how we did the funnel thing. Like, the funnel thing was my process. It was, okay, you got to put yourself in front of as many people as possible. Okay. Camming. thousands, maybe millions of people, okay, camming, and then it would funnel down into your OnlyFans. And then out of that, maybe you would pull a few one-on-one clients that are like the high ticket ones. And the services that I offered, or that we offered, was that we would manage their OnlyFans and manage answer messages if they didn't want to do that themselves. Some people wanted to. Like schedule out posts. What else? Kind of direct them as far as like creative styling of their photo shoots.
Success, kind of what worked for Dick.
Yeah,
and how to replicate
yeah,
that.
Exactly. So I really went through like this whole like client avatar kind of thing process with them, where I was like, okay, let's dive into who you are. Do you want to be you on camera, or do you want to create a completely ulterior persona that's your stage name? Some of them did, some of them didn't. I would help them with that. I would market for them. I'd help them set up their camming menus, and it really, like, they were all girls and they were all super cool. And like I enjoyed it, and it was very successful.
It was fun too.
Yeah, it was fun until you realize that it's kind of also like being like a hairstylist or a personal trainer, and like they come to you like with stuff that's not work related, or reasons why they can't work because they're sad, and that got a little bit overwhelming. But and I was doing it all alone, even though we were supposed to share the workload. That was all on me.
Oh, so he reneged on that.
Yeah. So we're just in Lake Geneva. I think it was actually Fontana, but Lake Geneva. You can't gamble in Wisconsin. So there was many times where he would be like,
oh,
yeah, they don't have like the apps. And so he would be like, hey, oh my God, there's a game on tonight. We got to drive to the Illinois border. So we would drive like 20, 25 minutes and, you know, just like sit literally at the state line road. And I was like, oh, you're so crazy. We actually set up a time to go meet Ashley and her husband for the first time.
Podcast Ashley?
Yeah. Podcast Ashley. Yes. So everybody has a little bit of context there. We stopped by their house. Their house is so amazing and beautiful, and Ashley does such a great job with like decor, and like it's so vibey. He loved them. He really did. He was like, they're so great. And, you know, because Dick played the piano and Ashley is a singer, songwriter, like I have a video, I have pictures. I think I smoked weed. I did smoke weed. That was one of the last times I smoked weed, and I got so high. I remember like I was videotaping them and he was playing the piano and she was like singing over his shoulder. And I was thinking, this is so cute, but I can't talk and say it because I was so high. It's so dumb. Yeah, but I have not since then because that was bad.
Well, that's good because you're in this bedroom. You can't smoke the weed.
Yeah, I can't smoke the weed in the house. We actually had set up that night like, hey, we should all go out to dinner. So we met with, I feel like maybe it's their cousin and his fiance or something, but it was us three couples. We sat outside at this cute little spot on the water. He was being super antisocial. Like, he was on his phone the whole time. And the crazy part is, like, he couldn't gamble. So, like, I didn't know what he was doing on his phone. Unless it was
working?
Maybe, but I feel like maybe it was, like, bet online. But normally I would be like, oh, he's watching the game or something like that.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't know. And it was very embarrassing because it was, like, Ashley knows me and knows how social I am. And I think there was this, like, threshold of what to expect out of my person. And I think initially at her house, it was good. He was very social and very like outgoing. And then now we're in public with other people and it's like plummeted.
Was there, I mean, you said that you smoke pot. Was he smoking or drinking? Because it seems to be that like he's at his best when there's something that alters his state of consciousness.
I think he did. I think he smoked weed. And truth be told, he handles things like that way better than I do. So probably. Maybe that's why.
Could be.
We saw them one other time when we were there. We had gone to Ashley's in-laws' house, and they have a beautiful house on the lake and adjoining property. And I just have always felt so close with their whole family. Like, you don't see them for 3 years and then you see them again and it's like, oh, you didn't skip a beat.
No time has passed.
Yeah, Chicago Italians. So we had dinner. there was hockey or there was sports on. I remember that. And I think it was one of those situations again where everybody was kind of like helping with dinner or doing something or whatever. And he was just like fucking planted in front of the TV. Like the only person. And again, so that's super embarrassing. Right. Like once in a while, like the father-in-law would come over and be like, what's going on with the game? But it's like, get the fuck up right now. What are you doing? Like, yeah, it was just ridiculous.
It's funny because from my point of view, it didn't seem like it bothered you. You normalized it when you were here.
It did bother me, though. I would text him about it because if I said something to him, he had no, like, if I said something to him about it and it was in the living room and you guys were in the kitchen, he would just fucking go off.
Well, the optics was that it wasn't a big deal. Like, you didn't say it out loud, but it didn't seem like it was a big deal. I mean, I'm glad to hear it now that
it's probably like how there's husbands and wives and the husband leaves his plate at the table and then the wife just comes and gets it. Mm-hmm. The wife's probably like, put your fucking plate in the sink 2 steps away. That's kind of, but it's like, I'm happy to do this for you, honey. You know, like that kind of thing. Yeah, so I mean, Wisconsin was really just a lot of that. It was a lot of talking with my new clients, setting up their stuff. He was camming. Once in a while, I would like log into the camming sites and like see weird messages that were like between him and like people that were on there. And there was one that sticks out that was like, he said something like, oh, like, I'm separated. Like, yeah, I have a wife, but, like, I'm separated. And this person was like, you should meet me. I'm going to be in Las Vegas. And he was like, oh, weird, me too. And I really thought it was like, oh, my God, he's going to run away to Las Vegas again. Like, he's, like, planning. He's telling someone he's going to be there. Like, but I don't think that I ever said anything about that. We were playing tennis at, like, the tennis club. That was, you know, another one of those like in the moment times where like the phone was down and it was just one-on-one and enjoyable. We did like he suggested that we do like a date day actually, and we ended up like,
he suggested?
He did, yeah. Because sometimes like you never knew like what dick you would get like when you woke up, like, and I think a lot of that had to do like with how much money he had or if his bets won that night or whatever. But he was like, why don't we go walk down by the lake and then we can go get some dinner. So we went to Mars, that supper club that I love. And it was just nice being outside, and we took some really great pictures. But then we got back to the house, and I don't know, like I always try to think about what happened in between the super happy moments and then the spot where everything starts to go bad. And the only thing that could have happened was something on his phone, because there wasn't anything that even conversation in the car. I don't know. So he starts acting a little bit weird. And I was like, is everything okay? And he's like, no, I'm going to go. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean you're going to go? Like, where are you going? And he's like, I just don't want to be married. And I was like, I don't understand you. But he was like sitting, so I'm like, if we're in a living room of this place, there's like a couch against the wall, and then there was like these like fancy chairs, like decorative chairs, and he was like sitting in the decorative chair kind of with his legs up and his arms crossed and like just completely flat face. And so I'm trying to have a conversation with him, and he's like not responding, doing the total like narcissist, like fucking stonewall bullshit. Yep. And
closed body language.
Yeah. And folded. I think that I got up and I went in the kitchen and I was just
got
like,
a knife.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No. I went up and I got in the kitchen and I got like something to drink, and I don't know why I thought in this moment that it would be a good idea, but I actually recorded the whole conversation, and it ended up being like a 2-hour conversation. And like I've listened to the whole thing back with Marissa, and I've listened to it personally back like a few times, because there's so many good little like sound bites and whatever. But he was a fucking asshole for like an hour and 45 minutes of that conversation. And then it's like somebody just like bing turns a switch.
For instance, when you said he was an asshole, what were some of the things? Like, I can imagine that he would twist everything, that it was your fault, that you made him miserable, and you know, everything's fallen apart since you've been together, because you know, I heard that, you heard that.
And now you guys will get to hear it. So every single
So all of
time.
the times that I tried to leave, it's like you didn't believe me. Like I was lying about that.
Yeah, because every time that you've tried to leave, you've literally been in the worst possible situation, and you always are. You're a runner. It's what you do. Like you escape when things get difficult, and it's so crazy to me because you have all the tools to make your life not difficult, including someone who's fucking here to support you and loves you more than. And you even said that to me. Hey, you love me through all of the days and the weeks and the months, and you're the only person. It's like, how could you give that up?
It's not that hard.
Why? Because you don't need love? You don't think that love is important? To be loved is important?
It is.
The person that will give it to you the most and has never wavered in that. Ever. I
want you to answer me a question.
Okay.
Why do you think that since we've met, that psychologically and emotionally that I've basically gone straight downhill?
I think there's a lot of attributes to it. I think that you have goals for your life that you developed when you were single, that when you think about them being in a relationship, you don't see how they're attainable.
Like what?
Like owning the Dodgers, like buying multiple houses, because I think that you feel like all of the burden that comes from the addition of me in your life, whether that's my financial stuff or my emotions or things like that, derail you from those. When in reality, I think that if you could just be a good person and love me like you claim to have loved me, all of that stuff wouldn't be a burden to you. It would be our life and extremely navigatable. But because you have kept us separate the entire time, it's almost like I'm a fucking...
Nothing is separate.
Everything is separate. Everything is separate.
What is separate about our life?
Everything is separate.
What is separate?
Anything that has to do with me is separate. I am a ball and chain holding you back from everything, and that's how you view it. I'm not the person holding your hand walking. That would be not separate.
Okay. So just in theory, not in any literal sense. Literally nothing about our lives are separate.
Right, because
we're together all day, every day. Basically, all of our bills are connected.
Mm-hmm.
We're on each other's social medias, very obviously. It says that I'm married to you on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Like half of my last 12 posts have you in them.
Okay, but all of that stuff doesn't matter, right?
But the point is that nothing is actually separate about our relationship in a literal sense.
Right.
Just in theory, in imaginary fairy tale theory.
No, but in your heart.
Oh, in my heart things are separate.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
And it's just really difficult. It's really difficult for me to understand how a human could be so cruel to do that.
It's not cruel, you just have never accepted no as an answer for us not being together.
Because you
So
keep telling me, because every time we talk stuff through,
you cry, and then you get emotional, and then you're like, yeah, I do love you, and I can see us being together and figuring out a way to work this out. And if that's what you say, then that's what you feel. And so how, if there's a little grasp of straws that is still, he does love me on the inside, and there's some inkling vision in his heart and in his brain that he can see that future, which is the one you fed to me and you sold me, then I'm not, then
I
I
didn't sell you anything. You're the one that has never taken no for an answer when I tried to not be together many times.
I'm talking
It's
about
not like
when you...
I'm the one that's like, we need to get married.
You
Let's
did
get married
say
June
that.
21st.
You did say that. You said that to the bishop.
Like,
You said that to me within weeks of meeting me. You said I needed to change religions. You said that I needed to do all of this stuff. You said I needed to do that, and I did all of that because that's what you wanted. Do you want me to go back and read the messages of all your stipulations for me to be your partner that I met? All I asked was that you love me and that you were honest with me. I don't ask fucking much of you at all. All I want is your love. It's all I wanted this whole time. Because you made me feel so great. And it wasn't fake. And it wasn't you tricking me, it was real.
I didn't say I was tricking you.
I know I'm saying that because I know that. It wasn't you tricking me. I know it was real. And I just don't understand how we can bless you. I don't understand how we can have sex and we can do all of these things that are so important to me and on a soul level, and that I could feel your love, and that you can just tell me that it doesn't exist.
I don't think that it doesn't exist.
Well, you don't fuck your friend and her feel tantrically soul connected to you. It's not a thing. It's real life. I'm not your friend. I know that there are other people out there that look better than me, that have their life together, that have more money and would probably just let you not work and whatever the fuck, and you'd have a fucking fantastic life, but I can promise you that they're never gonna love you as much as I do. Because all I know how to do is to love you.
I know what you're probably thinking, and I'm thinking it too. Trust me. It's pathetic. It really is. But when you have nothing left, you're in survival mode. And you try to salvage the only thing that you have, which just so happens to be the most miserable, horrible, abusive person in the world. I'm also positive that you guys may be wondering why the fuck there's so many long silences. I talk a lot. And he would just sit there and stare at me with nothing in his eyes. I'd be crying, confessing my love, confused. And I would get silence. He's also being, in context, nice in this audio clip. So, you guys just got to experience what it's like to have an argument with a narcissist. And it's not fun. But we get through it. We move on. So let's jump back into the story. So the next stop on our road trip was Alabama. And Alabama is actually where I got my dogs from. And I have a really good friend that I've had for, I don't know, Carrera's like, 9? So probably 9 years. And she's got 2 boys, and I love her husband. And so they were like, see you on the road. Why don't you come and like stop down here? You can stay in the guest room. And because that was going closer to the East Coast, we were looking at getting an Airbnb in Nashville because that was one of the places that we always talked about wanting to move to.
Okay.
So when we had looked at the Airbnbs, obviously there wasn't any planning done for that. They were all so expensive, or they didn't allow dogs or whatever. And where this friend lives was like 45 minutes south across the Alabama border. And it was close. So we started heading down there. And so, you know, he's not really like a country guy.
No,
yeah, I know. He's not really a country guy. And, you know, this is one of my friends that I've known for a really long time. And, you know, we communicate quite frequently, and she was invited to the wedding, but she couldn't make it. So this actually would be the first time that she was going to meet him.
Okay, I was going to ask that. What was her opinion of him? Have you, during all of these traumatic abandonment things, was she aware of any of this?
No,
nothing.
She wasn't. No, I think that like life was just too overwhelming for me, that like we didn't talk that much while we were together, maybe in the beginning, and then, you know, just kind of she would check in, I would check in kind of thing, but not nearly as much. Like we used to talk every day. So so when we got to Alabama, you know, you know how Dick is. So we get to their home, and they have a beautiful home, and they have a bunch of dogs, and they got St. Bernards, and they got Great Danes, and all these little tiny things and kids. And you know, it's just, I always have said that I wanted to live in Tennessee, or when I had met my girlfriend, Alabama, because the houses were beautiful, but they were also like cheap, you know. And I remember Dick asking the husband, like, how much is house worth?
So inappropriate.
Yeah, like again, the
like
social,
a 12-year-old,
like the social awareness, that it was just like strange. And I don't think that the husband thought that was weird or out of left field. I don't know. I feel like I was always talking about how like inexpensive the houses in Alabama were comparative, you know. So we were always sending Zillows back and forth. So maybe he didn't think that was a big deal. But
I suppose
my girlfriend really started on this whole initiative of like, let's convince Dick to move here. And so everything that we would do, if we went out to the store, if we went out, we would always drive past like, oh, you guys could live in this house, or you could live there. Oh, and then like the boys could come see Auntie Amanda and Uncle Dick, and like all this stuff.
Conspiracy.
So yeah, we ended up going to one of our other friends' house. She has a farm, and she has like probably, I think she honestly at one point had like 25 dogs, like all Great Danes. And she had a bunch of puppies, and the puppies were like, their colorings were like very rare. One had like all blue eyes, and it was basically like a Monza and Carrera combined, but a boy. And, you know, from my perspective, my husband loved my dogs, and he always wanted to get more dogs, and would be like, yeah, we'll do that when we get a house. And so when he saw this puppy, he's like, we need that. And I'm like, are you serious? Because don't tell me I can get a dog. Don't give me the green light, because I will go and get it, especially because it was my girlfriend's, because I'd probably be able to just take it.
Yeah, you get it for nothing.
So we went there, and we're hanging out, and he's playing with the boys, and he's playing with the puppies. And, you know, we go out into the pasture. We take, I think it was like a gator, we took down into the pasture, because she had like a llama and horses. And
oh my, you're eating this all up.
It was so great. I loved it so much. I love being there.
Seeing like, this could be us.
Yeah, I was like, I hope he really likes this. Like, I hope he likes this.
That's a theme. I hope he likes.
Yeah, I like this. I hope he likes this. So it actually, I think, had rained like a few days before, if not the day before. And so like the gator gets stuck in the mud in the middle of this pasture. And we're like you could see the house, but like there's no like walking back all of us, especially with the two boys, like they're young. And so my girlfriend gets out, and like the tire is like more than 75% like in the mud. And Dick looks down and sees the mud, and he's like wearing like white shoes, and he like refused to get off the back of the gator and like help her push it to get it out. Yeah.
Wow.
That's one of the things that she always talks. She's like, I knew that he was a bad person when he wouldn't help me push the gator to get us out. And I'm like, and I think what she did was that she like actually walked back and got like a piece of plywood from like the barn, and like an independent woman, like, you know, like got us unstuck.
He didn't help take things out of the car. He didn't help put my suitcase in the car when you guys picked me up from the airport. So that is not surprising to me whatsoever.
Yeah. And I remember
he literally could pick up the rear end of one of those machines.
100%.
You think about it. And his shoes.
Yeah. It's great. I'm pretty sure that my girlfriend like took off her shoes and was like barefoot in the mud, water, disgustingness.
I
but
wish
like
he
that's
would have fallen down.
That's who she is, and she gets shit done. I remember when she was walking back, like the boys are in the front with me, and he's hanging off the back or whatever. And I even have a picture, and he looks miserable in the picture. It's funny. He's like, why the fuck are we stuck in the middle of bumfuck Alabama? Like, why are we here? Like, just start, like, it was a bad situation already. I'm feeling embarrassed because my bodybuilder husband can't help at all. Get out. And like now he's gonna double down and be like, this is all your fault. Right. You again picked a place I didn't want to be, Amanda, because that was like his thing.
Yeah.
So I think we had probably been in Alabama for 5 days or so, and there wasn't really a timeline on when he would be starting this East Coast tour. But it ended up being 5 days after we arrived. And I think that my girlfriend and her husband were a little bit like, what? Like, where's he going? And he wasn't flying. He was driving. So he was driving from Alabama to all of these places.
That's so weird. Like, if you came to my house and you're like, oh, by the way, he's got to go.
Yeah,
it's like, for work. I'd be like, what? Wait, you wanted to come and visit.
Yeah.
And now he's leaving? The guy with the white shoes in the mud?
Yeah.
Okay, good riddance, I guess.
Yeah, it was very weird. He had, I think, like 5 to 10 like confirmed meetups with these clients, and you know, he's like, okay, like this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to this place, this state. It was like DC, New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, and then Boston. And each one of those places had like 2 people, except for Boston only had 1 that he would see. And he was like, oh, you know, like this is 15,000 is what I'm going to make from this, like confirmed from these clients, like minimal. And he's like, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's a lot of time that we're supposed to, like, this is our trip, but like, okay, I guess.
And how many days was he supposed to be gone from beginning to end?
I think that he said that it was going to be like a week. It would be like 7 days. Okay. Because it was a lot of driving, and I wasn't exactly sure where he planned on like staying over, but I knew that like he wanted me to plan the hotels. So yeah, So he actually like puts a suitcase together and grabs his desktop computer, which made me so fucking uncomfortable because I was like, where's your laptop? And he's like, oh, I don't have it. And that was weird. And I was like, what do you mean? Where's your, like, I think he left it at your mom's. And I was like, okay.
He doesn't leave that anywhere.
Yeah, right? Like, that was strange. But he's like, this is the only computer. I need to be able to work, like, in the evenings and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, okay. Yeah, right.
He takes the computers when he goes.
He takes the computer when he goes, yeah. So he starts driving. He left his location on. He was, like, communicating with me. He got to the first location. I think it was in D.C. And the boundaries just start being crossed. Like, what was the things that I said? Like nobody's house. Well, the place he drove straight to was somebody's house. This is a married man, a gay married man whose husband was not home.
Oh.
Yeah. And so he was in their home, and I don't know what happened. And then they went to a dinner, and then I think after the dinner there was another DC guy.
That he went to the dinner by looking at his location, or did he disclose any detail?
No, he told me, like, and he actually was like, I'm at his house. Like, it wasn't like he was lying. He said that, but I was like, why are you? That's not what we talked about. Mm-hmm. The second DC guy was, because he told me a lot about all of these individual clients, because I asked, I wanted to know. The more detail I had, the better. And so the other guy in DC was like a bi-curious guy, mm-hmm. who he wasn't really sure. He was like on the fence, and like maybe he wanted to, like, he was really entranced with Dick or Bret Michaels, and so he just wanted to see him and see how he felt. Oh, okay. He's in this man's apartment too. Okay. And in a later episode, I will reference what I found out about that specific meetup, which is absolutely fucking crazy. So from DC, he went to New York City, and he just drove like, he's so weird. He drove just like directly into Manhattan and had no plan. And
that's brilliant.
Like, what a fucking, like, I've been to New York 5 times.
Has he been to New York before?
I don't know.
So, like, he felt comfortable doing it? Like, that seems scary
he hasn't been to New York, like, enough. Not like it's not from a scary perspective. If you're driving into Manhattan and you don't know where you're going to park, like, where you're going to stay, there's fucking traffic up the wazoo. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you doing that? But so he, like, parked his car and then was just, like, walking around. Like, oh, I'm in fucking New York City. But the guy he was supposed to meet in New York City canceled. So now he drove to New York City for no fucking reason. So I want to say that there was somebody that was in New Jersey that was supposed to meet up with him the following day. So he was like, hey, can you look on like Priceline or something and get me a hotel in New Jersey? And I was like, sure. So I get the hotel. I paid for it.
You paid for it?
I don't remember if I paid for it out of our company money or out of my personal money. That's unclear to me, but I booked the hotel and made sure that it was paid for and that he had a place to sleep. He was like really like silent that night, and I thought that was strange. And I also saw him kind of like meandering like around, because so he was in Jersey, like right across the bridge from New York City, and like he was at like a Mexican restaurant, and I'm like, he doesn't do like the whole I'm gonna go out to eat and sit at a table by myself. He's gonna go get Chipotle, get a burrito, chicken and steak, and he's good. Like that's just who he is. So I'm like, that's weird. And so it started getting me really like curious, paranoid, and like I think I was like on his Instagram or something, and he didn't follow that many people. It's also somehow it would show up like in chronological order who he followed, and there was like this I don't know, this girl that lived in New Jersey that had just added him and that he had just added back, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Not smart at all. I later find out that that's his ex-girlfriend. Oh. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes it so much better.
Still not okay.
It's definitely not okay.
Yeah.
So after Jersey, the Jersey meet also, oh, you know what? Let me think about this. In Jersey too, in the same episode where I will reference the DC guy, what I found out, I also found out a whole mess of stuff that was supposed to happen in New Jersey that I had no idea about, and it's absolutely fucking insane.
So it was like planned out stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
It's great. So he leaves Jersey and he starts driving to Connecticut, and I mean, while this may seem like a lot of driving, like really New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, it's kind of all right there, you know, like within like an hour, I want to say, of each other. But Boston was far. DC was kind of far. And then obviously going back to Alabama.
Right.
So he called me on his way to Connecticut, and he was saying that like the guy was being kind of sketchy, that it was supposed to be an ATM meetup. He was supposed to meet up with him at like a mall or something. And I remember seeing him get to the mall in his location, and then almost immediately after he got there, he was back on the highway and he was headed to Boston. And so I'm like, hey, like, so how did the Connecticut one go? And he's like, yeah, the guy like told me he was coming and just didn't come. And I'm like, okay, so that's now we're looking at this. Yeah, we're looking at this, and I'm like, okay, so the two guys in DC you were able to meet up with, like, how much money did you get from them? Because like, are you pushing the 15K, like the threshold? Because you've been gone now, let's say it's like 3 days or something. The first guy in DC, I think, gave him like $400. I can't give you any more. My husband will find out. I'm like, oh. And he's
kind of like the $1 million insurance policy that never came to fruition.
And then the other guy was like a student.
Oh,
yeah.
that's cute.
And I'm like, this is just unbelievable. And I knew that he was after Connecticut on his way to go see Dr. Sean. And Dr. Sean, I had not at this point seen him send him any money. Like maybe for his birthday he sent him like $50 on Cash App or something. But it was more so like exchange of like he would give him free Botox and give him vampire facials or like all of those like aesthetic things.
And what would Dick provide? What service did he provide?
He was his sub. He was saying he was his dom. He didn't have to provide a service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was the same person that bought this bed.
What bed? Oh, this bed?
The Sleep Number bed. Yeah. So that's interesting that this bed is in a man that is not my husband's name. I get emails that say, "Hey, Dr. Sean, your sleep is great," and I'm like, that's so weird. Yeah,
so sick and twisted.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow.
So he got to Boston, and I remember seeing him at this house, and I was assuming that it was Dr. Sean's, and I was like, okay, so you're gonna stay at his house? That, like, now you've crossed a lot of these boundaries, and now you're going to stay at his house. I don't feel comfortable with that. This doctor was the same one who, like, prescribed him and I the COVID antiviral, right? Like, so he knows about me. Like, we follow each other on social media. We're friends on Facebook. I don't feel like that's appropriate. And Dick's response was, well, Dr. Sean will sleep on the couch because he's my sub. And that's where he belongs. And I will take his bed because that's where I belong. And that's what he told me. And I remember FaceTiming him when this doctor was at work and he was at the house, because I think he stayed there for like 3 days. And he was sleeping on the couch. Dick was.
He's so stupid.
Like, he was laying on the fold-out couch, and I was like, do you realize that you told me, like, what you told me, and then now where you're laying? Like, if you're going to be a good liar, be a good liar.
They don't remember, because the lies are so second nature.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't remember the insignificant lies that they tell. They don't remember them because it's just falling out of their mouth.
I also think that that's a lot of the time why he wouldn't talk when I would argue with him, because I think that there was like this little kind of fear maybe that
get caught up.
That he would get caught in a lie that he said. But so yeah, he eventually went to the office and he got the Botox, he got the vampire facial, lasers, all for quote unquote free.
What's a vampire facial?
It's like where they draw your blood and they spin it and they take the PRP off the top.
PRP.
Protein rich plasma.
Oh.
Yeah, and then they put it on your face. Well, they do micro needling and the little tiny holes on your face, and then they put the PRP on it and it rejuvenates it, fine lines.
So they take your blood and they kind of re-inject it in your face?
It's not re-injected. It's really just taking like the liquid gold, like the plasma off, that's what they call it, off the top of it, and then it's in like a pen kind of thing. It actually, the results look great. I want to get it done.
Vanity, of course.
But yeah, but it's called vampire facial because there is still blood pieces in it, and it looks kind of scary. Another reason why he wanted to go to Dr. Sean was because one of the things that was like on our goal list as a couple was to understand like his fertility stuff, because like there had been times when I had gotten pregnant and that didn't like
times. Yeah,
there was probably 2 times, I think. Yeah. I feel like I mentioned twice. Yeah. It's been twice. That didn't obviously unfold. And
thank God.
So yeah. So I was concerned because I knew, and I always have kept up on that like my fertility was definitely in check, if not like way healthier than my current age. So I'm like, I really want you. And I knew that he was like cycling steroids too, which he told me that he wasn't going to do anymore. And I would just read stuff on the internet about it. And I'm like, okay, like even if he stops right now today cold turkey and doesn't do it anymore, one, I know he's going to hate his life because he's going to get fat. And that would, if he's depressed now, can you imagine him fat?
Right.
He would just die.
His mindset, everything's going to plummet.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to understand, like, are there any living sperm in that body, or like what? And so he was like, yeah, well, Dr. Sean can give me a fertility test. So it was like, see, I'm doing something for you, Amanda, too. Like, he didn't do the fertility test. Like, why would this doctor be able to do that? He was not that guy. That was
the nugget. That was, you kept looking for him to drop hints that he loved you and that you were important. And so, like a puppy, that was the little nugget of love that he dropped to you by telling you that he was going to do something that was important to you.
100%.
With no intention of sticking around to impregnate you, much less be a father to a child.
Yeah. That's absolutely the case. So after he gets his PRP and all of that done, I'm like, okay, well, are there any more clients? Also, huge fucking flop because I don't see any money being sent to any of the accounts that are associated with business. And he's like angry. He's like, fuck this. I can't fucking believe this. Wasted so much time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I told you, And so he says that he's on his way back. Or that I think he said, like, leaving now. So it was actually a weekend, and I remember that my girlfriend and her husband and the boys, they have a camper. And so they wanted to just go for the weekend and brought the camper to a campsite by a lake. Just whatever, get out of the house and stuff like that. And I was going to stay back at the house and watch the dogs for them because they don't really get an opportunity to go out, no babysitters or anything. And I think it was Friday night, and my girlfriend's like, hey, we're only like 30 minutes away. Why don't you just like grab some Trulies or something and like drive over here, and we can sit out by a bonfire because we're in the same place. Like, why wouldn't be?
Right.
Yeah. Are the dogs okay? Like, if they're okay, just come over.
Yeah.
So I head over there. The husband makes dinner for us. It was good. We're sitting outside. Boys are, roasted marshmallows. It was a cute little place. And I hadn't heard from him, like, I don't know, I would say maybe like 4 hours or so. But I was also like having a good time. And I was happy and not concerned because he had said, I'm on my way back. And the last time that I saw, he was, driving south from Boston. And I noticed his location, and his location is actually like going through New York, but like not the way that I remember seeing him go through to get to Boston. So it was a different route. And I was like, well, why would that be possible? And so before I like said anything and made any assumptions, which I already mentally was, like, I just put like Boston to Alabama in my GPS. Well, there was like one route. It wasn't one of those ones where it's like, you maybe could take
5
one
routes,
of 3, whatever. And I was like, okay, And then I put in Boston to Las Vegas, and it was the exact route that he was on. And I'm sitting around the bonfire with my girlfriend, who knows me very well and knows my facial
spidey senses,
just everything. And she's like, are you okay? Like, instantly. And I think that also, like, I just got really hot, and I was just like, I stood up.
Well, you kind of have experienced this enough to be able to predict what's going on.
Yeah, but I was full-blown panic attack mode, and he was definitely headed west. And so I call him straight to voicemail. I think I called him probably 10 times. So I'm like, what the fuck? And I pull up the AT&T app, And I go and I look through his recent calls. And not just like recent, meaning like that day, but like I hadn't looked at it because we had been in communication and things seemed fine. His whole trip, there were calls to the woman in Arizona that he had been talking to that I like heard over the dog camera. One of the calls was for like 249 minutes
during this
trip
tour of the East Coast.
Yes. So he's on the phone for 4+ hours at one point, then 90 minutes, 60 minutes, and it's just her over again. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is crazy. So I finally got a hold of him, and I was like, basically, I will that woman is going to have her own episode, if not two, and she can speak to what he was saying during all of hours and hours of phone calls. But I had found out later on that I called him 10 times and he was actually on the phone with her. And it was one of those like 90-minute calls.
Yeah.
And he didn't click over for his wife, who could have been in a fucking car accident, or literally anything could have been going on. So he finally answers, and he's like, I just can't do this. Like, I can't come back there. And I'm like, like, you've abandoned me in our home. You've tried to abandon me in my family's home. Okay, so this is next on your checklist, right? Like, now you're going to abandon me in my friend's home. I'm like, you can't fucking leave me and my dogs in Alabama. What are you doing? Part of me was like, I always wanted to live here. But, like, it was like a 1% of me. I was like, I can't believe that you're going to try and attempt to do this, that you'd even think that it's possibly, like, all of his stuff was still there, too. Right. So I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, they're just meeting you for the first time. I'm with them now. And now I'm crying. And now I'm telling my girlfriend, and I'm telling her husband. And they're like, well, fuck that guy. Yeah. And, all of this stuff. And I think we talked on the phone for like an hour. And again, this part of the back and forth between him and I, these conversations aren't always me being like, please, please, please come back. But like, it's not a lot of begging. There was like a lot of him talking mostly him talking during those conversations. But he would talk himself out of what he was doing at the moment. So if he was currently engaging in running away from me, right, he would talk to me, and then he would say things like, well, maybe, we could, like I could work on that. Or like, he would talk himself out of what he was doing. And
there's no integrity to anything that he does or says. I mean, clearly I know to you that that's apparent, but just the psychology of it is just so disturbing.
Yeah, it's wild. And so he said, all right, I'm coming back. Don't worry. I promise I'll be back. And part of me was just like, why does he always go to Vegas? Why? And I think that was also something that he had talked about on the phone. He was like, we're with your friends and your family, and like, I want to be around my friends. And I don't know. It was probably the worst thing that I ever just blurted out. But it was like, you want to go to Vegas? Well, let's just move to Vegas then. Is that good? Will you never run away if we can go and live in the place where you always run to? Because that to me seems like the only logical explanation. And he goes, oh, that's all it took?
Well, that's the thing, is you're just continuing to compromise what you wanted and your morals and your ethics, and that's the bottom line. It's not going to happen. Okay, fine. And it happens. Not that you said, okay, yes, you can do these things, but it ended up, I'm at this person's house. I know we weren't going to do in-house meetups, but that's where it is.
And it initially wasn't even supposed to be in person. Like, there was supposed to be no real life to it.
So now you just told him, okay, fine.
I'm like, let's just move to Vegas.
Move to Vegas.
I said, and also, I don't, obviously, I picked Alabama. You hated Alabama. Mm-hmm. I picked Lake Geneva. I think he liked Lake Geneva, but I don't think he was like, oh, it's going to get too cold here. It's like every place that that we went, I had picked because I had thought that he would like it, or he said, yeah, let's go. And then he was like, no, I hate it here. And so I was like, okay, whatever. So here's the deal then, Dick. Like, you get to pick where we live, and you get to take care of all of that. And I'm not gonna spearhead this process anymore, because I obviously have no idea what will make you happy as it pertains to location. So if Las Vegas is what it is, I never wanted to live there, but I felt like I already had left Arizona, and I'm like, might as well give it a shot, because why not?
He's not happy anywhere else.
He's not happy anywhere else. So again,
so you handed the reins over to him to be in charge of everything, getting the lease, all of that.
Not like finances as of yet. It really was just pick out the place. We'll tackle like the lease and stuff together. It was pick out the place you want to live that will make you happy, so that you can never fucking say, I hate this place, it's bad energy.
Yeah.
And then also just when we were going to get there and kind of all of that stuff. So again, he had said, I promise I'll be there, don't worry. I think that was Saturday night, and he was driving. I think he ended up stopping in like, maybe it was in like Columbus or something. Like, he had gone through almost Ohio and was to the west, and then he was just supposed to do like a straight shot down. And in the morning I woke up, and I actually went to like Mormon church in Alabama, because I was like so like distraught. And it's funny too, because my girlfriend, she actually is like ex-Mormon.
That's what I thought. I was going to say. So
and
she understands the
dichotomy of my life, because she has lived a true Mormon life. And
she was raised Mormon.
She was raised Mormon. Yeah. And her husband's completely the opposite. He's like from Wisconsin, and they're hilarious. They're like everybody around here. It's so funny. But so I was like, hey, I'm going to go to church. And she's like, what? She's like, you're going to like Mormon church? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you're fucking crazy. This is the South. And she's like, the Southern Mormons are a different breed. And I was like, okay, like, I don't care.
Be interesting.
I also, like, I'm not sure if it was a lot about the optics of me going, like how that would look to him, but we hadn't gone in a while, and I just really didn't feel like God was even like recognized me, because I truthfully did pray on my knees like every single night, especially the nights when things were really, really rough. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I need to go. So I went there. It was a good church meeting. There was like a lot of Southern women that were like, hey, you're new.
Was it a young singles thing?
No, it was actually a family ward. Yeah.
Look, I know the jargon.
Yeah.
Ward.
Family ward. Yeah. They were really cute, and I was almost like, oh, wow, like this could have been my life maybe. But then I left, and I think I had talked to him, and so he picked up, and I was like, hey, where are you at? Like, how long till you get here? And he's like, oh, I had to make a pit stop. And he's like, in Illinois is not a fucking pit stop from Columbus. It's like 6 hours. And I'm like, why are you in Illinois? And he's like, oh, I had to get my laptop. And I'm thinking that he came here to get his laptop. No, you know where his laptop was?
No, I don't.
It was at a pawn shop.
Where?
On Randall and Dundee Road.
God, I hate him.
He pawned his fucking laptop so that he could have money to gamble.
It's so funny that the man who calls everyone a loser, who went on his East Coast tour to do his last dance, if you will, had to pawn his fucking computer because he's a degenerate gambler.
$400 is what he pawned it for. That's what he got. And then he had to pay to get it. I don't know how pawning stuff works. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I haven't lived that life.
Yeah. I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
All this stuff that I'm learning for the first time, because you've told me some of these things. So, and you massaged your message very nicely, although I could read through your bullshit after, I don't know, the second or the third time. And Like he would lie to you and you would catch him. You would lie to me and I would catch you.
Yeah.
So I wasn't fooled by a lot of this, but even still hearing those shockers that your listeners were like, he gambled your paycheck on Russian ping pong.
Yeah.
And he pawned your laptop on the laptop in Illinois and had to make a pit stop is
he's insane. Like, he's truthfully insane. And so I have like a text message that I pulled up because I was texting. So I had called him, and I think that he was like walking into maybe the pawn shop or something, and he hung up. And I was like, I said, hi, how's the drive? Like, love bug or like something like that. And he's like, it's stressful. And I said, it looks like you're in Illinois. Like, is there construction? And he's like, I'd really rather text you if it's okay, because I was calling him.
Because you called him, yeah.
And I'm like, you're not coming here, are you? And he's like, I feel heavily conflicted about that. So this is now after he's promised me, after I said, let's move to Las Vegas. And I'm like, this hurts my soul. Like, and now I'm just trying to get him to come back. And I'm like, this hurts my soul. You've been such a great husband. Yeah. You've been such a great husband. Please don't leave me here. I don't want to be here without you. I even apologized to your friend, the AZ girl, this morning. I've done so much self-work, because he was also telling me that like I was a black hole of depression and negativity, and that being around me was like really not fun. And I remember him being like, you have no hobbies and you don't no drive or whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so we're talking, we're texting, and I had told him I took the initiative, and I think this was two-pronged for me, was to reach out to this Arizona girl who I had messaged in the past and kind of try and understand what was going on there, but lead with, I had no idea what was going on. Almost like reverse psychology.
Okay.
So what he had said to me about this individual was that she was going through a really tough time, and that she wasn't working, and that she was at home, and that he was like keeping her company.
Car accident person?
Yes. And so he was keeping her company, and that he's not interested in her, and he doesn't look at her like that, and they've known each other online for 7+ years but had never met, and there's a reason for that, he said. But yeah, so I sent her an Instagram message, and I said, I'll read the whole thing because it's actually quite crazy. Hey, so-and-so, I'm sure this message seems odd, but I discussed wanting to reach out to you with Dick a few weeks back, and while it's taken me a few weeks to figure out what to say, I felt super inspired as I leave for church to send you my thoughts. Okay, so I sent this before church. That makes sense. First and foremost, I wanted to apologize to you. I am sincerely sorry for coming at you unwarranted about your friendship with Dick. You didn't deserve to be accused of anything, and it's on me for jumping to conclusions. Being the quote-unquote crazy wife isn't at all who I am. Dick is my best friend, and I truly want him to have people in his life that support him, listen to him, and give him an outlet other than myself. He deserves literally so much. The man is amazing, as I'm sure you know. My husband is my world. Our life while on the road now is becoming something so incredibly amazing. This is all lies. I guess the goal of this message is to extend the olive branch, apologize, and also get to know you better, woman to woman. And so
you're not really thinking this. You're just writing this.
I'm just writing this because there's no way that any woman is spending 279 minutes on the phone with my husband and thinks that
you're cool with it.
I'm cool with it.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering like what she's going to say back if I say that everything is wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, because I know for certain that what he's telling me is not true. And so I said, so I hope that you can forgive me for jumping to silly conclusions, and maybe next time we're all in Phoenix, we could grab some dinner. There's places I'm missing food-wise. Anyways, thanks for listening. Totally get that befriending me is entirely up to you given my action, but it would mean the world to me to get to know you. I hope you have an amazing Sunday. I gave her my cell phone and I said that Dick's 30th birthday was coming up and I wanted to put something together. And since they've been friends for so long, like, it'd be great if, like, you know, you could help plan or like something. Like, I was like,
really
I was fucking, I needed to know what was going on with that, because that, he couldn't pick up the phone to tell me that he wasn't going to come back, but he could talk to this woman for that long. And he had actually been talking to her the whole entire fucking road trip, you know, like, it's just so crazy. So my girlfriend and her husband knew that he was abandoning me, and they're like pissed. They're like, he's not going to come back. Like, he's not going to come back. And I'm like, no, he's coming back. No, he's not going to come back. I'm just making excuses. And they're like, he's bad news. And I'm expecting him to come back, and I start seeing that he actually does start heading that way back. So I start packing our stuff because I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to Vegas now. And he arrives back in Alabama. I think it took like 2 whole days for him to get back, when it really could have taken him 10 hours if he would have taken the right way. But so we leave, say thank you, goodbyes to like my nephews.
Did they confront him? Were there any words?
No, nothing. I think that my friends just respect me too much, truthfully. There's been so many situations where I kind of was like, wow, I really wished somebody would say something, but no one ever did. But that's okay, because I'm saying it all now. So I packed the dogs in the Jeep and all of our stuff back up, and he's, you know, in a good mood because, like, he finally gets what he wants and he gets to go back and live in Vegas again. And I think also, too, it's important to note that, like, people would be like, why would you say, let's go move to Vegas, to your compulsive gambler husband? And honestly, it doesn't fucking matter where he lives. He will compulsive gamble from his phone using Bet Online or online stuff.
Right, yeah. He's
like,
going to find it.
He lost the most money on our couch, not in a casino.
Yeah.
He actually would win when we would be in physical casinos. So he picks this apartment complex, and the apartment complex actually was a place that he lived with one of his ex-girlfriends, I find out.
Oh, so it doesn't have like the negative energy.
Right.
He's aware. Well, thank
He's
God.
like, yeah, but this place, there's like free tanning beds, and they have like arcade games and a resort style pool, and it's so wonderful. It's in the super rich part of town.
Of course
and,
it is.
Yeah. And blah, 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 blah. He'll be close to his friends, all of his guy friends, who I have met 1 or 2 of them maybe once or twice for 5 minutes. Besides Matt, there's like 2 others that were supposedly like his besties. Well, I mean,
Never seen
like,
them.
I've seen them, but like, he had seen my best friends a bunch, you know, like at that point. So it's weird. Also, his family, a lot of his family was in Las Vegas and or like Utah, very close by. And so he picked out like this 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I don't even remember how much it was. I think it was probably like $2,600, which was more than the one that we had in Phoenix. And I'm like, how the fuck does this make sense? And well, I'm making more money. I'm like, where is the money? Where's the more money? Because you were the best months you had was when we were living in Phoenix,
and the road trip
was a bust.
Yeah,
exactly. So actually, on our way back to Las Vegas, our phones got turned off, our cell phones, and I was fucking scared because, like, while I had the GPS on, I was like, he would drive up like in front, or like I would drive up in front, and that was just so scary to me. And like, for context on like what our money situation looked like at this point, I was still getting paid because I was on short-term disability, and I was making commission percentages off of these OnlyFans adult content clients. But the adult content clients actually were kind of like, I don't know, it almost was like there was a lull in that for a little while, and maybe it was because we were driving, but I was only getting paid half of what my regular pay was, and I was paying for like our food or the groceries, car payment, insurance, gambling, right? Like I think I had.
How
like,
are you paying for the gambling?
Because if he didn't have any money, he would ask me for money.
And
if it came from our quote unquote business, then it's also his. And so he'd be like, send me $200 from
the business account, whatever. Okay. I had saved up kind of discreetly like $2,000, and I think I put it in like a PayPal savings account because I was like, I have to keep something somewhere. And so somehow we got the phone turned back on, and my boss from Paychex had called me, and she was like asking me how I was doing and whatever. She had known very high level the story that he had left and whatever, trying to work things out. Okay. And I tell her that we decided we're going to move to Nevada, and that's good because like when we get there and we're settled in, like I feel like I'll be able to come back to work. And my team oversaw Las Vegas, and we had a person that lived in Las Vegas proper. So I was like, okay, well, that'll work. And she's like, yeah, there's like no positions in Las Vegas. Jeez. And I'm like, okay, so like, are there positions on other teams? And I think that I looked and that there truthfully like wasn't. And so she's like, yeah, so we're going to have to like, you're going to have to send in your resignation letter by like November 1st. And I was like, what the fuck? Cool. Like, this is great. So now we're going to move. We're moving into a place I don't want to live. And I am losing my job because my husband is a fucking asshole. Cool. As we're driving, he's sending me like, he's like manic. He's like sending me, we should do green. Let's do emerald green paint on the walls, and we'll do like a velour couch. Like, he's like green, gold, white. Like, that's going to be like, it's going to be a vibe, Amanda. Okay, whatever you say, Dick. And I'm like, with what money, please? Because we don't even have like the deposit for the place.
I mean, you're going like, there on a wing and a prayer. There's nothing.
Yeah, like there's nothing. So this is actually like another like defining moment for me, because we get into New Mexico, and New Mexico is a really shitty drive. There's no service, so we didn't really talk like for hours, and then we finally pull over at a gas station. I didn't have any money, and I didn't have service to transfer any money from my PayPal secret savings into my account. So I pull up to the gas pump, and I go, hey, like, can you fill up my tank, to him? And he's like, oh, I was going to ask you to fill up my tank. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like,
gave you $200.
He's like, I don't have any money. Like, if I had given him money previously, he lost it. He didn't have anything extra other than that. And so we're sitting, and I'm just sitting there like leaning up against my car at the gas pump. And we had to sit there for like 40 minutes while he somehow got service or went inside the gas station and used Wi-Fi to like talk to somebody for 5 minutes or send a video or something. And this person sent $50 for us to fill up our gas tanks. And I like cried. I was like, holy shit, what are you talking about?
Sounds like a rock bottom to me.
Yeah. And he was, truthfully, I've never seen him embarrassed about anything. He was like embarrassed. He was like, I'm so sorry, like holding my face, like, I'm so sorry. This is so fucked up. Like, holy fucking shit. Like, he was just apologetic and embarrassed. Yeah, I can't believe that I did this and whatever. So we filled the gas tank up. I'm not talking. That's how it was like traumatizing. It's like, I have my dogs in the car. New Mexico is fucking scary and cold and no service. And so I get back in the car and start back on the road, and like, he sent me a text, and the text was, he said, I'm so sorry that you thought we were poor this whole time. And I go, what do you mean? And he's like, I've made more money since I've known you than I've ever made. And I could have very easily have sent you at minimal $200 a day. But for some reason, I just didn't. I didn't want to. And if I would have done, I'm so sorry that I didn't do that, because you've been thinking that we've been poor this whole time.
All right, so let's unpack that, because I'm sorry that you think we've been poor, but you were poor. There wasn't any money and the bills were going unpaid.
Right. So I think that what he's saying in this moment is that there was money that I didn't know about, or that he would tell me that he didn't have it when he really did, or he would win and he had money and he would just gamble it. Whatever the case may be, he verbatim said, like, I could have sent you minimal $200 a day since we've known each other, and that would have paid not only for all of our bills, but we would have savings. And the fact that he was like acknowledging that like felt good to me, but at the same time I was like, this is the first time that you ever basically are telling me that you've been hiding money and like lying to me, because now I feel like I was tapped out, and also like my car was tapped out, and it was just like, I think you saw in my face where I was like, I cannot believe that we're stuck in the middle of New Mexico, homeless. You know, the homeless that you said you never wanted to be again. Now you've made me and my dogs homeless. Like, that was just so crazy.
Well, the thing that I think about it when you're saying that he said all these things and that he was possibly hiding money from you, or was making money gambling and losing it.
Yeah, not telling me about
and
it.
not telling you about it, is that in hindsight, you have no idea what any of these stories, if they were actually true. You know, which part of these stories so far, because we're not done, were true.
Yeah, I mean, every single thing that he said that he was doing as it pertained to work or gambling, all could have been completely made up. The only time that I knew that things were real was if I saw them. So the calls with Jamie, that was real to me. I received money from that.
Yeah.
Or say, like, when he actually did have $40,000 in his account from winning when he was in Hawaii, I saw that.
In a bank account.
It was in the account, but it was real money. And that was real. It all went away because he's an idiot, but those things, and so I kind of, I guess, just based off of what I had, the minimal I had seen, and the fact that I just blindly trusted this complete fucking psychopath, yeah, it's really.
When you, okay, so you're in such a different space right now. Where was your mindset? You said, I kept trusting this complete idiot. Where was your
psychopath?
mindset?
Yeah. When I was trusting him, that I felt like he needed it. I felt like he needed my trust because nobody else trusted him. But I didn't take into consideration was, why did everybody else not trust him?
But what did that, like, how did you, for yourself, looking at yourself, everything that you have done, so many of your actions were to make him happy. We'll move to Vegas to make him happy. We'll move out of this, you know, soul-sucking apartment in Arizona to make him happy. Where were you in the equation?
I wasn't, and I knew that, and I felt like I didn't matter. Like, that's it. That my purpose was to like make him happy, and then once he was happy, that hopefully I would be happy through his happiness. That's what I felt. Yeah,
that's heavy.
Yeah, you see how
I was like, that is that you were putting all of your worth in this person. You know what's actually what makes it even more insane is that he would say to me, stop putting me first. He would say that, but then he would be like, I don't want you to put me first. This is why you're sad. This is why you're depressed. This is why you're negative, which I wasn't. But he would say that, but then the moment I would do something for myself, he would be like, well, what the fuck? flip the script
and flip it. And then I was literally like, I didn't know which way was up or down because I'm like, what do you mean? Like,
So it made you feel like you were crazy.
Yeah, it was always making me feel like I was crazy. Always.
Textbook.
Yeah.
Textbook. Narcissist.
Yeah. So, we arrived in Las Vegas, but we actually couldn't. I can't remember. This was probably like the end of the third week in October. We were supposed to move in on the 28th, I think, and he had, because he's a degenerate gambler, had like 3 comp nights at Red Rock Casino. So like it was free. Like I like Red Rock, so I think it's great. And so we got to stay there with the dogs, and he brought his computer up and he's camming in the room, and he was like, the thing is like we did not have the deposit, and because the lease is gonna be in my name, but I made sure. But listen, I made sure that he was on it because I didn't for the last one. And when he wanted to just dip out of that place, and I was able to make sure that wasn't a lease break, it was a medical like leave excuse thing. I was like, no, he has to be on this one. Well, he's a felon. So the deposit was way more money.
Oh.
So, like, he couldn't get any more days comped at Red Rock because, truthfully, he wasn't even gambling there that much because we lived in Arizona and we were traveling.
Yeah.
Like, they will give you comp nights if you're there spending fucking money, but we weren't there.
You gotta swipe your card or something.
And so we actually had to stay at Matt's house. So we stayed he has this big gigantic house that he lives in with his father, and it's huge, but like his father didn't know we were there with our Great Danes, and we stayed there for, I don't even know how, I think it was probably like 3 or 4 days.
So like high school, like sneaking in and out of your friend's
Sneaking in and out,
house.
and Matt with Monza with the stairs, we were upstairs, and like I had to like, it was insane. I was like scared. I would like just stay in the room. So yeah, we had to like basically like sneak them out when they had to pee and all that stuff. So like day 2 of being there, he tells me that he has to take a trip to Reno for a client meeting, and that he's is for $1,000, like a hotel, a casino. I don't know Reno. Like I don't know. I know people go there for like snow shit, and he's like, yeah, it's a casino.
Snow shit.
And so he pays $90 for a Spirit flight to go to Reno. But also, let me back up. So this is really important. So I was doing all of the adult content consulting still, and his computer, our computer, it was purchased with the business. I wanted to use the computer to do it because I was using my laptop, this one, and it's just too small. The other one's bigger, faster. Okay. So I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor and just, can I use the computer? And he's like, yeah, sure. Okay. So he drives to the airport. I'm back at Matt's house, kind of just like typing away, doing my stuff. And I was just like, this is just really weird that he would let me use the computer. I'm realizing that I have actually like never had free range in this computer.
Yeah, and you are a sleuth, and I can't wait to hear this.
And so the first place that I went, I typed in Instagram, and miraculously it was still logged into his Instagram. And I found so many fucking messages in there. There was a message to like a conversation that went on for so long with this girl that he dated in the past, that he cheated on his ex-wife with, and the conversation was like talking about me. It was like he was basically telling this woman that like he wanted to have babies with her, that like he had tried to have babies with me, but apparently like I can't, and there's a reason from God that's why that happened, and that he's meant to have I forget, it's on my social media, like stud Adonis babies with her. And she was like, Amanda seems like a really nice person. Like, I don't know what, like, yeah. So that was that one. Then I'm like, okay, that's fucking cruel, but whatever. And I'll bring it up.
And so then the next place I went was Twitter, because I'm thinking about the place that the sites that he's on most frequently. So the next would be like Twitter.
Okay.
And I had never seen the Twitter messages. So I go in Twitter, and there was a message from an account, looked like an older woman, and the name was like Kim or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened it up. Oh, and actually I said this was going to be in another episode, but it's the same episode. Here you go. It was from Kim, and it was him planning on meeting up with her. She's in New Jersey, coming to his hotel that I booked and I paid for. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, what do you want me to wear? And he's like, well, I don't know, like maybe like trench coat with nothing underneath, like. And she's like, well, aren't you married? Like, does your wife like okay with this? And he's like, I'm not married, that's over. And then it goes like, she doesn't answer him back, and he's like, well, what the fuck, how are you not coming? Are you blowing me off? We've been trying to fuck for 3 years.
Oh my God.
And
so that's the New Jersey guy.
No, it was a woman.
I know, but didn't he tell you?
Oh,
he was
yeah,
meeting a guy?
quote unquote, yeah,
Yeah.
Kim. And like, he truthfully, like, he is all about like that whole like MILF thing, right? And
Yeah.
and so like that's the porn that he watches, like all of that, like. And so I was just like, this is fucking crazy, like you're so insane. And then the next one, I can't remember if it was Twitter or if it was Skype. I definitely looked at both, but the bi-curious guy in DC had sent him a message that aligned with like the time that he was there. Mm-hmm. And then it was like the time that he left, and there was a message immediately after he left, and he was like, hey, yo, hang on. And he was like, you left this, I found it in the sheets. And it was his wedding band, a picture of his wedding band.
I think I've seen that actually.
Yeah, in this guy's sheets. And he was like, oh fuck. And he's like, I'll run it down. Okay, thanks. And then the next message was like, could you spot me $50?
Dick asked this guy.
Yes, could you spot me 50? Like, why were you there? Why were you there? And so I'm looking at all of this stuff, and I'm like, this is so crazy. And almost at the time where I just like turned the computer off and like didn't, and I like laid in the bed just about to be in a depressive hole, my
Can't
phone,
imagine.
Yeah, my phone rings, and it's the Arizona girl. What do you say to someone who has spent countless hours on the phone with your husband? Well, first, you start out like Switzerland. Play dumb and listen carefully, because your gut knows the truth, and chances are you're about to hear it. More on that next week. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. We covered so much ground, literally and physically, in this episode. Wisconsin to Alabama. Dick drives up and down the whole fucking East Coast. In search of what? Oh yeah, a miraculous payday that never comes. Shocker there. He crosses all of the boundaries, and I finally say the words that he's been longing to hear our entire relationship. Let's move to Vegas. God. Worst fucking suggestion I've ever made in my entire life. This episode is titled Mama Tried, for a reason. She really did try to pull me away. I just wouldn't listen. I really hope you enjoyed hearing from my mom and her take on all of this firsthand. She'll be returning soon. Thanks again for listening, sharing, and asking all of the fun and entertaining questions on social media. Please don't forget to rate and review. I'm so thankful for all of you. I'm Amanda Arnier, and this is the Dichotomy Diaries. See you next week.